Council will now come to order at 6:01 p.m. Roll call, Ms. Ludwig,
Here.
Mr. Shockley,
Here.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Here.
Mrs. Dixon. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Ludwig, please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. May I have a motion to recess into executive session per Rhode Island General Law 42465A1 for the following: discussion of job performance, character, physical and mental health of a person or persons, specifically for the council to interview candidates for the following board, the Planning Commission. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Ludwig. Do I have a second? Thank
I'll
you.
second the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Shockley. Any discussion? All right, roll call vote. Ms. Ludwig,
Yes.
Mrs. Shockley,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mrs. Dixon, yes. 4 yeas, no nays. The motion is approved. Members of the council, please access the Zoom link for the executive session. Thank you.
What do you think we should turn around?
Well, I don't know because going further up. Yes, turn around.
Yeah, it's either yes or no.
Yes. What do you? I mean, what do you think? What do you feel like, Chris?
I don't know. I don't know how to, because I don't even know where we are right now either.
This is Mayagüez, but this area tends to go así, se va.
Hello?
Stay. Let's continue editing.
Unless that's the time that you sent it. Sister 12.
Yeah. It's for 6 though. And no one's here.
The council is in an executive session and the regular meeting doesn't start until 7 p.m.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So
I
7.
heard something.
It's sexy.
Hold on.
We are 15 minutes away.
Can you hear me, Ben, or? Okay.
All right, can you hear me then?
I sure can.
Excellent.
Are you guys all done with your closed session or?
I didn't sit in it, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I assume they're still in.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they had a lot of people to interview, so it's possible they're still interviewing. Hi, Lisa.
Hello,
How are you?
good, how you doing?
Good. Good. Just fine.
A little too busy, but we're.
I know. This is the,
Crazy time with the budgets.
it really is, for the town manager and the finance director especially.
Yep.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
It's tiring. Then we get all this CARES Act and American Recovery Act and all this crazy stuff going on.
I don't know how you reconcile all of it, with, it's complicated.
Yep. And it gets more complicated because the federal government hasn't issued regulations, so you got a guessing game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's tough. We'll get there.
Yes.
It's worth the free money.
Right.
Although I don't think anything's ever free, right?
Well, we won't debate that at the moment. We'll just,
Oh, man.
now it's starting to look normal.
Good evening.
Good evening. Did you enjoy your closed session?
Wonderful.
Yes.
Good, good.
Riveting as always.
Well, that was true. That was actually true.
All right.
Are we all here? The public meeting is reconvened at 7:02 p.m. Welcome to members of the public and a warm welcome to our presenters this evening. I see Mr. Marchant, our town manager, is with us this evening. Mr. Gorham, our legal counsel, Ms. Mills, our finance director, of course, our illustrious town council members, Ms. Jacob from the Western Coventry Civic Society. Is that correct?
Western Rhode Island Civic Historical Society.
Thank you for that correction. Our town clerk is with us. Mr. Warzycha is with us. Our administrative officer, Ms. Raena Blumenthal, a director of Parks and Recreation. We have Ms. Catherine Patno, Chairperson of the Coventry Public Schools. We have Ms. Weeden, who is the Director of the Coventry Public Library, and Mr. Sandoval is with us this evening. May I have a motion to adjourn from the executive session?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. May
I'll
I have
second
a
it.
second? Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call. Ms. Ludwig,
Yes.
Mr. Shockley,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Dixon, 4 yeas, no nays. Okay. Members of the public, the council met in executive session per Rhode Island General Law 42465A1 for the following: discussion of job performance, character, physical, and mental health of a person or persons, specifically for the council to interview candidates for the following board: Planning Commission. The council interviewed 4 applicants for the commission. The council discussed the candidates but did not make any decisions. The council has 2 more candidates to interview and will make an appointment after all have been interviewed. May I have a motion to seal the minutes of the executive session?
Make a motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call. Ms. Ludwig,
Yes.
Mr. Shockley,
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc,
Yes.
Mrs. Dixon, 4 yeas, no nays. The motion is approved. We're going to try something a little different this evening. We're going to allow public comment. We're allowing a max of 10 minutes for public comment on non-agenda items now. We know that many members of the public are with us and they wait a long time because our meetings have been 3 and 4 hours long. So we're going to allow some public comment at the beginning of this meeting for non-agenda items. If there's anyone who'd like to speak, please raise your hand. And then we will also, of course, have public comment at the end of our meeting. Is there anyone who would like to speak now?
There's nobody raising their hand at this time.
Okay, I'll just give it 1 or 2 more minutes because this is something new that we're doing. We're trying to increase public participation and not keep people waiting, as I said, 3 or 4 hours to speak.
There's one, I'm going to let them in now.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Hillary Lima, 31 Edward Street. Just curious as to why the public comment is non-agenda items. It just seems like it doesn't make sense when, if someone wanted to make a comment about, a current piece of legislation being considered for the evening, or, if now is not the opportunity, when would be the opportunity to provide that comment?
We're not going to be discussing public legislation this evening. All it is a report based on it's a follow-up report based on a legislative meeting we had back in late winter.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean on that particular agenda item. I mean in general. So say if any agenda item, if someone had a comment or input, if they can't provide it now, providing it at the end of the meeting seems kind of pointless if the decision's already been made. So just curious as to the decision to make it non-agenda items.
We wanted to offer an opportunity for people to make some comment. There's going to be comment at the end of the meeting, and then from time to time, based on the agenda, we do allow public comment or discussion after different items on our agenda. We just thought we would give an opportunity for those who are not here for any particular agenda items, but just want to maybe say something about something else that's on their mind, give them an opportunity to appear and then go home if they wish or continue on with the meeting.
Okay.
Is there any other comment?
There's no one else with their hand raised.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on to item C3, Town Manager Report. This is reference pages 16 to 17. Mr. Marchant's report is in our packet, but he also sent us a revised email today, this afternoon, which seems essentially the same. Mr. Marchant?
Thank you, President Dixon. I just wanted to make sure you had the full report because in my packet, it was missing page 2. But just to highlight a correction, in my town budget portion, I mentioned that I have a correction that the financial town meeting will be held on June 8th. The election for the all-day referendum will be on June 10th. I have some great news to share, and that is Catherine Lee of Congressman Jim Langevin's office and Christine Keeney of the New England coordinator for the East Coast Greenway Alliance were instrumental in getting the Trestle Trail Extension Project funded with Greenway infrastructure stimulus in the amount of $5.5 million. The great news is 4.4 million will be coming from the federal government, and the 20% match is not Coventry, but Rhode Island Department of Transportation. They stepped up to cover the difference, and we're very excited. It's coming to the town of Coventry to administer the project. So we will be receiving those funds and doing the bid and managing the project through to completion. So that's our role. We're very excited about that, though, because anytime you can get that kind of money spent in your community, it's a good thing. This is going to continue from the terminus of the paved trail to the Connecticut border. So there's a fair amount of distance, some water crossings, bridges. So it's a very expensive project, but it will be a stimulus for the local economy, tourism, recreation, health and wellness. A lot of positive benefits coming from this project. And when I got here, I heard it was too late. We had already missed the window, but we got another bite at the apple, and we got our place in the bill. So that's great news. In the latest round, I got an email from Councillor Ludwig asking about the stimulus and what stimulus funds are coming when. And as I was trying to work with Ms. Mills about it to figure it out, there really isn't any clear consensus or understanding about how much funding is coming when. It sounds like there are a number of different pots. So under the Trump administration, the first round of the elementary and secondary schools emergency relief, they got 720,000 already, but it looks like they're eligible for another 5,362,000 in the second round of that Trump stimulus. And now under the Biden administration, there's the American Recovery Plan, where they'll be eligible for 3,453,597.23. So I'm getting these numbers from different locations. My big fear right now is that I don't want to double count the same dollars from the same pot, just reported under different names. So I will put that disclaimer out there. That's very good news, but we do know that the town got from the CARES Act 2,300,617 in December and January. And this next round under the Biden administration, the town is being allocated for municipal purposes 6,752,930.63. And that is specifically designated for municipal functions rather than schools. So it sounds like there's going to be funds all around, and we're really hoping to get clarification on all of this with federal regulations and guidelines, which are supposed to be issued May 9th. So by the end of next week, we'll be able to say with more certainty as it gets disseminated from the state through the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns.
Ask a question on that?
Mr. Shockley?
Yes, thank you. So we know that the 2,300,000 and the 6,700,000 are two separate pots of money, the money that's coming to the town?
Yes.
Okay, and have we spent any of the 2,300,000 yet?
Yes.
I see Lisa shaking her head.
That was spent in the police department for eligible payroll expenses in the COVID response. Now, we do need to track that so that we don't put ourselves in a deficit by spending these one-time funds multiple times, but we have derived that benefit.
Okay, so we spent it on additional hours for the police and
No,
emergency response, or for what we already would have been
all of,
spending?
yeah, what we've already budgeted, we were able to use those funds to cover that, which essentially releases the funds we had budgeted for their salaries for general fund surplus. It just gives us more freedom to use for other things.
Yep, and we do need to put that in every year's budget because they're annual expenses. But this year we might have a little bit of freedom.
Right, this year we'll have that surplus because essentially it's substituting what our fixed costs were in operations. And now we can use it for something else.
Okay. So should the school have the same guidelines as we have by the 9th and be able to know kind of exactly what they're getting as well?
That's what we expect, yes.
I just keep looking at Lisa, so.
Sorry.
No problem.
She's the brains behind this.
I forget I'm on Zoom
I'll give her
sometimes, too.
credit, yes.
So Lisa could shut off her video, but we don't want her to do that.
No, I'm perfectly fine with it. I am clear on the answer when I see her shake her head, so I appreciate it.
Okay. Any other members of the council have a question for Mr. Marchant? Yes, Ms. Ludwig.
Thank you, President Dixon. So just a couple comments. So firstly, I have gotten multiple questions from residents because I suspect back in March, there were multiple Rhode Island senators sending out tweets saying Coventry, 15 million, sending out this type of information from very, very high level. So it sounds like it's not 15 million. We do have a dollar amount now. It's much closer to 10 million. If I add up the school amount, the 3.4 million plus municipal 6.7, just under the Biden rescue plan. So that's 10 million. Okay. And maybe just to go back a little bit to Member Shockley's comment about where the funds are being spent for the 2.3 that we received from CARES. I noticed that we still have questions about how we are accounting for COVID money. For example, I've had those questions when we look at school budgets, things like that. Is there any way that we can separate out or create some sort of visual that we can go down to, the dollar on where COVID funds are going? Because we're going to have to answer this question for the next, I don't know how many years. How much did we get from where and what was it spent on? So if we can keep good records of that now, I think it will make it easier on every person that comes into us and asks what happened to this money.
I agree. It's a question of accountability to the voters, but especially when you receive federal funds, there's always strings attached. There are specific ways you can spend those funds. And if you don't have that documented, they can come back on you and ask for it back. So we are going to have that very well noted.
And then one last item, the obvious question is, can any of that be used towards any of our budgetary items that we're going into for 21-22?
That will depend on the regulations that are issued next week. I don't know what the limitations will be. There will probably be some, but if we are wise and prudent with it, like we were with the previous dispensation of funds, we can use it for eligible things that we were already had in the budget that we were already going to spend money on.
One-time expenses.
Well, no, we can use it for operations, because if the COVID regulation says it has to be used for public safety and police salaries are considered eligible, we already budgeted for that. So if we use the COVID money for that, then the money we budgeted for police salaries could be reallocated somewhere else without restriction.
I would say just my initial thought process is that we should not be using one-time money for operating expenses, but I'm sure we're going to talk about this more once we actually get information.
Yeah, it's not, because in effect, we're taking the one-time funds and using it for what they were dedicated for and replacing the money to use for something else that is one-time.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and we can map it all out. for future finance and budget meetings to make it clear.
Thank you.
I also believe that once we have definitive numbers, once we understand the parameters under which this money can be used, once we understand the time limit, then we as a council can sit down and in a public session with Mr. Marchant and start to think about how the monies may be used and what would be the best use of that money. Right now, it's a lot of speculation. We know a number, but we don't really know what that means, when we can use it, how we can use it. So we will have very thorough discussions and it will be in public sessions. Mr. Shockley, do you have a question?
Yeah, just so I could make sure I'm understanding correctly the conversation that Mr. Marchant and Ms. Ludwig just had. Because we spent the 2.3 million on appropriate COVID-related expenses, now we have 2.3 million to spend as we see fit. It's no longer earmarked towards COVID expenses.
Right.
We kind of
we checked the box for COVID. That's done. Now we can use it for something else.
And
do you want to speak, Ms. Mills?
Yes.
Can I add to that? Oh, it is kind of confusing because the U.S. Treasury made the regulations for that COVID under the CARES Act, saying that you could use your salaries for the police or public safety to make it easier for everyone to qualify, so they don't have to go through each each account and pull out COVID related. So they made it easy for the municipalities, and that's why they did it. So in the end, we don't necessarily pull it out from our general ledger perspective. What's going to happen is we're going to have, let's just say, $2.3 million more surplus by the end of the year, and then it's up to the town's discretion, to the town council's discretion, if they want to use that surplus for make a motion to use it for any other expenditures that Ben was talking about, maybe one-time expenditures. But it does free it's kind of confusing because it frees up additional money, but that additional money is really termed as surplus. Okay.
Well, so, and another thought to think about, because it was for COVID, it's easy to just bill it all to police hours, but in reality, you might have had $1 million in expenses and personal protective equipment and a whole bunch of other stuff. And rather than chase down all those receipts and expenditures, we're taking the easy way out, and we'll just make sure we balance at the end of the year, and whatever we have left over, we can decide what to do with.
Might have spent it on COVID and we just didn't allocate it to those expenses.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Marchant on his report? Mr. Marchant, your complete report was in our packet that we did receive, just to let you know.
I'm glad to hear that. Good.
It was there. Is there anything else in your report that you'd like to mention this evening?
No. As long as everyone's okay with Portuguese flag raising ceremony on June 8th, then I'll accommodate their request.
Last year, I participated in the flag raising ceremony. It was a brief ceremony, but very nicely presented. So I did represent the council last year.
Very good.
President Dixon?
Yes.
I'd like to just ask a general question. So this is the first town manager report that we've seen officially. So I wasn't clear if this was included in the packet to the public.
No.
I didn't think it was. Okay, so are there certain things on here that we're not going over on purpose?
Only because I didn't have anything to add to my report, and if you want to bring them up, I'm happy to go into detail, except for those things that are discrete, and like I can't go into detail on the grievance issue, that's just been resolved. But if there were any questions of policy or concerns, I would bring those up, but as of right now, there aren't any.
So the items under your town budget section, I think would be helpful for the public to understand that several council members have brought up some questions in terms of expenses and figuring out how to have a review of some of those areas within town. And maybe we can just level set expectations for the public concerning,
Okay.
that
Well,
process.
so what I shared in the report were just kind of what I've been thinking about. So I'm sharing my thought process with the town council as I go along. And I think the best place to discuss it at length will be at next Monday's budget work session or special meeting. And there's, of course, the joint meeting with the school committee tomorrow evening. And those venues are kind of where we have the time allocated to discuss the budget options and consequences in detail.
That sounds fine. I just want to make sure that, for the people that are dialing in, I would probably be confused at this moment in the call because I don't have the memo in front of me and we've skipped around a little bit. So, thank you for those that are kind of bearing with us here as we go through this for the first time.
Okay, his memo is in the packet, pages 16 and
I have the memo. Thank you, President Dixon. The public, I don't believe
Did
has.
that go out to the public?
I just wanted to clarify, it actually is on the website, so the
Okay,
public can
so
access the
everyone
memo.
can see it.
Just wanted
Okay,
to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. When I reviewed it, it was either yesterday or Sunday. I didn't see the pages here, so that's my misunderstanding. Thank you.
And also, Mr. Marchant mentioned that on May 3rd, when we have another discussion on our municipal budget, he will be making a presentation and going into detail concerning some of these items that are in his report. So the public will be able to be fully informed about during that presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Item number C4, Finance Director, Ms. Lisa Mills. This is the report for January 1st, 2021 through January 31st, 2021. The report was in your packet. Please try to limit your report to about 10 minutes. I know you'd like to spend 2 hours on this, Ms. Mills.
I'm limited to 10 seconds. How's that?
Do you want screen share, Ms. Mills?
No, unless you want me to. I was just going to highlight the.
I think if you could screen share, that would be great. That way members of the public who are on the Zoom call with us will be able to see the document that you are to which you are referring.
Okay, that is fine. Let me pull it up. Okay. Hold on.
While she's doing that, Ms. Mills did include in the package we received the February report, but because it wasn't in our agenda, she's not able to speak to it this evening, but she does have it prepared and you do have a copy of that in your packet.
Okay, so share my screen. And
yes.
Let's see. All right. Is everyone?
Not yet. It's coming. There it is. Great.
You see it?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so the first page, the first memo, I just highlighted that our revenues are at 60%, 60.36, lower than last year, 66%. At this point in time, we should be at 58%. Expenditures are at 56.86, slightly lower than last year's 57.98. So to walk through this report fairly quickly, this is a summary of the revenues. And the property taxes are at 60%. Last year were 68. So they're down a fair amount. But so then we go to the municipal revenue, that's down as well. You get to the expenditures, and our expenditures are down, which is favorable, obviously. And for a total to date, and month to date, January 31st, a surplus of 3.7. So you can tell from looking at prior month, prior year of the 9.3, it's quite a bit of a difference, and it's mainly due to the taxes. So the way I prepare this report, I bring in all the revenues, and these are all the different components of revenues, which would be, I believe, on your second page. And I added a separate, I know last time it was the first report that I did was December. I added this additional column here, a percentage of budget. So we have an idea, not just the percentage of budget that we receive to date, but also what is it in totality of our budget. So when you look at this, the actual revenue for the levy of the taxes, that revenue is 70% of our budget, and we receive 60% of it at this point in time in the year.
So, Ms. Mills, does that mean our collection rate has gone down?
Well, it's a little bit less than prior year at this point in time. Yes. Yes, but I mean, I know I'm not supposed to talk about February because I already did it, but it picked up on February. So
No, you can't tell us that yet.
okay, sorry.
You.
Disregard that. So then just basically went through the revenue pieces for the state aid, general government, and other departments. So that's that. Then the expenditures, I don't know what else. I just basically broke it out, the same presentation that we have for the budget. So we had those reclasses from Department 950, the town general department. So just as in the budget, we reallocated those to the actual department heads that were responsible for those expenses. So that's reflected in here as well. And then I did it as well for 2020 to make it comparative. And and that 950 allocation is shown in the same presentation I did for the budget on the 4th page. Does anyone have any questions?
And members of the council, questions that you have for Ms. Mills? Mr. LeBlanc.
Looking at the general property taxes, compared through January compared to last year, we're actually down 5.6 million.
Yeah.
It is quite concerning. Do we know what caused that significant dip, other than people just not paying their taxes, or I just wanted to at least ask.
Well, I mean, I had that initial concern, and then I did the following month, and it just came right back. So,
okay.
You know, it might have been people who did get out, or I'm not sure of the answer, but it did come back in February. So we're right on track.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Marchant, you have.
I would just add that it's pretty typical to have fluctuations in revenues from month to month. As a governmental entity, we really have a full annual cycle, so that any given month is very unhelpful to determine how you're doing. And so one month to the next isn't super helpful, but you want to track it. But as long as the revenues come in the end, you're fine.
I would agree with that to some extent. I mean, taxes are due on certain dates. So to have a $5.6 million swing, that seems quite large. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. Any other questions by members of the council? Ms. Ludwig.
So if we could go back, Director Mills, to your comment about the general government. So that did trip me up on this a little bit. So if I look at the executive summary, for example, for January 31st, general government shows 1.4 million under general government.
So we're looking
revenue.
at line 34 right now for members of the public who may be trying to follow us. It's line 34. Is that correct, Ms. Ludwig?
That is expenditures. So, and this could go for both expenditures and revenue. So anything that we're allotting to that quote unquote general government, you're saying that this already accounts for all those line items that you moved under the corresponding departments, or?
Correct. So because I had to move them for 20 to be a comparative analysis, right? So that's why I did this on this 950, and plus we're doing that. Not only did we do it for the budget, but we had to do it for our accounting software. We had to relink all those IT accounts. So it'll be this presentation. Unfortunately, it is a little confusing. It took me some time to do it. But until we get through this, the 6:30, we will have this comparative from a prior year moving things, because I have to make them apples and apples, so to speak, I guess.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So that I understand. I agree, it would be helpful to look at apples to apples. So, so it sounds like, for example, once we hit the end of month for July, we would presumably have that general government in both revenue and expenditures broken out to how you've done your reallocation under the departments.
Well, yes, we are doing that. We don't have that necessity for the general government for revenues, because everything is broken out. However, we do have, just for your information, I'll bring this down here, this line 49, miscellaneous income. So there's several departments in there, and we plan on breaking that out. It's just been a history of items from different, like maybe the town clerk and some miscellaneous stuff from the police department and DPW that wasn't really reflected in the detail from prior department. I mean, the departments in the past. So that's the next project I have, is to move those, so you really know what's the additional revenue is coming in, and so you can have a better idea of what's going on.
Okay.
By department.
Okay. And another question. So the areas, and this goes maybe possibly back to Mr. Marchant's comment about month to month, but there's a couple of line items on here that seem much lower than where we would have seen them from the year prior. So we already obviously went over general property taxes, but again, for example, motor vehicle taxes, that looks significantly lower on the revenue side from what we collected year after year there. So I just wanted, so it's, let's see here.
320,000.
Oh, hold on. Let me see my number here.
It's about 10% off.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at February. I'm sorry, I'm trying to look at both documents that you sent us, but is that also, maybe just talking about motor vehicle taxes in general, are there, I think as we go through here, maybe what we can do is send in some questions, because I'd like to better understand where the swings come in. So for example, if we pay our taxes quarterly, month on month for property taxes may not mean as much, like Mr. Marchant said. Is that the same with the cycle of collection for motor vehicles? Like, I don't want to be asking you the same question every month.
Well, it should be, but I think because we pay this town, I mean, every town has quarterly taxes, and the motor vehicle taxes are going to be due the same time the real property is. Not sure why there is a big drop, but like I stated, I did look at the following year, and it leveled out for the real property. So I don't know what else to say. I'm sure there's some other issues going on with why people,
Isn't the motor vehicle tax being phased out? And that's part of the dip?
It is getting phased out, but that is still what we have levied. So we're supposed to collect it all. And if someone doesn't have to register their car, sometimes they push that out. They don't push out the property taxes as much. You guys have a outstanding collection rate of 99%. So I don't have any worries on Mo getting those the money in, because he does a fantastic job. It's the highest I've ever seen. So I think sometimes a motor vehicle is when, like I stated, if someone's not registering the vehicle, sometimes they push that out.
Okay. And then for some of the other items on here, I'm assuming, is there an easy way to tie them out? For example, there's one or two items on here that I'm trying to go through my binder of the budget so that I can see what makes this up. So I'll give you one example. In under expenditures, non-core function.
So yeah,
I'm
if you
trying to
have
think
your
of what
budget,
this is.
so if you have your budget handy,
Yes.
and let's see if I have a printed budget here. Yeah, the total budgets will tie Miss Jen. So if you look at the total onto this, and this is why I had to do those allocations. So if you go to the totals, those totals will tie. You want me to pull up the executive summary so you can see that for the budget?
Well, right.
I don't think we need to do that right now.
Okay.
I can do that offline, Lisa. And then if for some reason I can't tie it out, maybe I can send you and Mr. Marchant an email.
Yeah.
But that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so if you just look at these ones that are grayed, those are the totals by department. I tied them right back to the budgets.
Okay.
Are there any other questions, Mr. LeBlanc or Mrs. Shockley?
No additional questions.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Ms. Mills.
You're welcome.
It's always a pleasure to have you present to us each evening.
Thank you.
All becoming very well educated in finances these days, and a quick study, 101.
That's a good thing, right?
It's a very, very good thing. Okay. Okay, item C5, Administrative Officer, Mr. Warzycha. Mr. Warzycha is going to present his monthly report. Mr. Warzycha, do you want to screen share or are you all set? You're on mute.
We still can't hear you.
We still can't hear you. Mr. Warzycha's report arrived by email this afternoon. Some of you may have been able to pull it up or not. I do not know, but it arrived this afternoon.
And make sure your mic settings in Zoom.
Yeah.
There you
Nope,
go.
it's the mute on the headset. Can you hear me now, ladies and gentlemen?
Absolutely. Thank
Yeah,
you.
the mic headset mute is what kicked it off. I apologize. So, Madam President, thank you for having me here this evening for this. This is my first administrative officer report, so they will get different and better as I go along on what you're looking for, and also I'll make sure with the new timeline on the budget agenda, the agendas, I will get it there so you receive it in your packet and you won't have to get an email from me on it.
Thank you.
Tonight, I'm going to cover two subjects, the two that are pressing. First and foremost, Johnson's Pond. That one is the one that's outstanding. And I know that the situation involving Johnson's Pond is of great concern to a number of town residents, especially those living on the pond. I really wish that I was able to give all of you more information on the situation, but there's not much that I can discuss about the issue due to it being in litigation. I can say that we have a hearing scheduled for Thursday, April 29th at 10 a.m. And hopefully after that hearing, I'll be able to post additional information both on the website as well as social media. I do want to reassure everyone though that even though it may appear that nothing is being done on this, there is it's just the opposite. We are working our tails off on this. Nick Gorham, Dave DiAgostino, myself, and several others that I'd rather not mention out here have spent a substantial amount of time researching, getting the details, monitoring what's going on, and getting this all prepped, not only for going into court on the 29th, but also for where we have to move forward on this, on the bigger item, which is obviously the long-term lease. So all of that is in play. Like, again, we will have more information available to you after Thursday, and that'll get posted as soon as we can. Does anyone have any questions that hopefully I can try and answer? But
Mrs. Shockley?
Yes, so this evening, Johnson's Pond Civic Association had posted the social holdings response to the motion the town filed. Is that what's going to be discussed on Thursday? And that's what we'll be learning more about at that time?
that is their response to our filing that will be the subject of Thursday's hearing, correct?
All right, thank you.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
Okay. The next thing the next thing that I've been working on the last couple of weeks and trying to move forward in, I got a whole paragraph written up about all flowery on where we're going. Long and short of it is that there's an extensive amount of paperwork, files, documents. I mean, this thing started back in 1966, the first preliminary engineering studies done. So, I mean, from 66 on, there's been a ton of stuff that's been produced. Unfortunately, we don't have those documents all in one area. And we've got them spread across computer systems, servers. There's some in town hall. There were some in the manager's office. I believe I've acquired all of those. Over in the annex, they're everywhere. So first and foremost, I'm working on putting all of that information together, compiling it all. We had done a good job of getting some of it for when the Auditor General was looking to do his report, but there's a lot more out there. I know Mr. LeBlanc had cataloged a lot of it at one point himself, but the amount of paperwork, I've got at this point several file drawers already filled with documents, all of which are going to need to get digitized. So we've got electronic versions of all of it. Some have been done, others are going to need to. But so moving forward, that's my first responsibility with this. And that's what I've been working on, is that, as well as looking at and dealing with the aspect of, we need to bring on a full-time sewer employee to handle all of the work involving the applications, the permits, dealing with the engineering department, as well as eventually and ultimately taking all of Monique Cool's responsibilities that she's now handling on the sewers and bringing that over and getting it out of the municipal side and having it onto the sewer side. So I'm going to be coming forward with a proposal on that in the very near future. We've also got several other areas that are pressing that have to be handled ASAP before we get digging into the bigger, wider, the ordinances and all of that. Some of the things that we've got, the sewer facilities plan was last done in 2016. That has to be redone every 5 years. We're gonna have to put out an RFP for that. That's in play right now, so we're gonna get that out the door as soon as we can. The maintenance contract with Weston and Sampson, same deal. We're working on a year-to-year contract basis with them. An RFP is going to be going out on that topic as well, to acquire if any other companies would be interested in applying and putting in a bid on this. Additional the annual sewer use fees. We've got a new system that was developed by Raftalis last year for analyzing all the financials and calculating out the rates that need to be, the rate that needs to be collected. Our sewer use bills go out in September. So prior to September, we're going to have to go back in, recalculate with all the newest numbers that we've got, and readjust and come up with new figures that are going to have to come up in front of the council before August to redo the sewer rate fees. Those are the big ones, the pressing ones that are in play right now. That'll come to fruition in the next month or so. And then the others, as these get accomplished, we'll be starting the other aspect of the bigger, wider question on the ordinance, the changes that need to go there, the changes that the council feels, as well as where the council wants to go with this, and what your desire is to do with the sewer fund. I'm like I said, you'll be getting more data on this as I dig deeper into it, and I'll answer any questions that you have now. I tried to keep this short and sweet, Mrs. President.
Thank you so much, Mr. Warzycha. Members of the council, questions for Mr. Warzycha? Mrs. Shockley.
Hi, thank you. I just am wondering, so annual sewer use fees readjustment every year?
It should be done
Can you
every
just
year.
give me more information on that?
It's the amount that we charge. We last year was the first time it had been readjusted, and I believe it was 6 years. The rates had never been brought up, so subsequently we were not collecting enough money to pay our bills. That's something that needs to be analyzed and adjusted every year based on the needs that the sewer fund has. So we will be looking at all of the present collections, the expected increases from other projects that are coming online, and then making the adjustment, as well as looking at any if any new charges were coming in on the from West Warwick involving the use fees and all of that. So that'll all be taken into account. The numbers will be put in, and we will develop and see what we need to collect per gallon, 100 gallons for the use fee. So yes, that's what that's about. But that is something that needs to be done annually, and it needs to be adjusted annually and approved annually by the council. If we fail to do it like we've done in the past, we're only causing more problems like we did in the back years. So that's got to be done every year. So that's pressing, and that will get done before and in time for the council.
Other questions by members of the council? Mr. LeBlanc.
Mr. Warzycha, can you just confirm the increase that we saw last year in the usage fee on the Coventry side?
The Coventry side, the total rate was, I think, a 50% increase on the total rate that went up last year. If there is a need for an increase, it would obviously be nowhere near that kind of rate. Again, depending on any new properties coming online that will have assessments as well as user fees, we'll be looking at all of that. That'll be taken into account. And again, we will keep at the bare minimum. We have to collect 1.25% of our debt and O&M cost to satisfy the requirements of all of the bonds that we have. And up until this past, we haven't been able to do that. We hadn't done that. And it's causing an issue. And that's why this is all part of keeping us at that collection rate that we need.
Thank you, Mr. Warzycha. Appreciate
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Warzycha, I know that some people in the public who are watching us may think 50% seems like a big increase. But tell us, what was the last year before we did the increase that the rate had changed?
It was 6 years. It was 6 years prior to that. That was the problem. And even that year, the rate when it was put in was substantially lower than what was recommended and what was needed. That's, again, these are the biggest problems we faced with the sewer fund. The fact that in the past, council's not willing to do what needed to be done, which is increase the fees to where they needed to be and set assessments unfortunately where they needed to be based on the cost. So we're fighting the sins of the past, and I don't want it to go back into that. We've gotten to the point now where the collections are where they need to be. We need to keep them where they are. And unfortunately, again, I don't know yet. We haven't started the process. I mean, it could mean an increase. It may not mean an increase. We don't know. So I'm not going to put it out there that it's a definite, but it is a reevaluation of all of the fiscal numbers that has to be done before we get to issuing the new use fees.
Thank you. Any other questions, Ms. Ludwig?
Thank you, President Dixon. So Mr. Warzycha, as you kind of work through this new role, are you looking to engage with the sewer subcommittee at all at this point, or is that more kind of to be determined as you?
No,
go along?
I actually plan on getting them engaged much deeper into this. Again, as I said, I'm at this point, I am acquiring all of the documentation that should be put together in one central area around this whole thing. You can't manage this and understand what's going on if we don't have all the paperwork and all the documents. So I'm working on that. As far as where it comes to looking at some of the other areas, yes, I want to involve the sewer subcommittee. They need to be involved, and I'd like to give them, with, again, you will be doing it ultimately, the council, but make recommendations to you to get them involved in certain other aspects. So yes, that will be happening.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions by members of the council? All right, ready to move on? Okay, thank you, Mr. Warzycha.
Thank you very much. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Our next item is item number C6. As part of the council commitment to transparency in government, we're asking each department head to provide a brief update of the department so that the council and members of the public may have a better understanding of the role of the department in our community. As part of this commitment, our Director of Parks and Recreation, Ms. Raena Blumenthal, will present this evening. Ms. Blumenthal has been asked to limit her presentation to 15 minutes, which includes questions. And this is not a budget discussion. This is just let us understand better what your department does. So Ms. Blumenthal, would you like to screen share?
I would, thank you.
Thank you.
Raena, right at the bottom of the Zoom screen, there's a
Okay.
green share screen icon.
Okay.
Then if you click on that, it'll give you the options of what you want to share, and you can select just the PowerPoint if you want, and that will limit it to just that instead of the whole screen, if that's helpful.
Oh, 1 second. It's not working. Nope. It's making me cancel the meeting. I'm sorry, Cody. Could you explain that one more time for me, please?
The bottom of the Zoom screen, the share screen icon, it's green.
I am in join a meeting, sign in. I apologize. 1 second.
You are sharing your screen. It might be your second monitor though that you're sharing. We're looking at a web browser.
So I see screen. Is that it, right? Yes.
Yep, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect.
For future reference, you can pick just a program to share. So if you open up the PowerPoint, you could share just that PowerPoint. And then we can't see everything else on your screen or emails coming up or anything like that.
Okay, but you can see the rice field right now?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, thank you. I just want to start by saying I'm very excited about the extension of the bike path. I have a lot of program ideas, and I was just thinking about it while you guys were talking. So I'm looking forward to that project. So it was really nice hearing that. And I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak tonight. So what I'm going to do is just go over some of the functions of Parks and Recreation. So a lot of what we do is administration. So that includes taking permits for field requests, facility rentals of the community center. It also has to do with testing services. So for Briar Point Beach, the bacteria in the water, we also test well water at our pavilions, and we also do elevator testing in the annex as well, because it's attached to the gymnasium, and we are responsible for that as well. We have park maintenance, and I'll go over some of the facilities and the parks that we actually maintain in the next couple of slides. We also are responsible for recreation. So that just doesn't include programming. That includes courts, the netting, the actual surface, the crack fill. And we also are responsible for our summer camp programs, the Briar Point Beach, as well as the Summer Basketball League and the free community events in town. So that includes everything from the holiday event to Halloween, Easter. So we appeal to the thousands of people through those events in the community and service them that way. So here's the parks inventory. So we have over 30 park locations. So it's approximately 585 acres, 300 which are actually maintained property. By that I mean that we mow, we clean up brush. There's facilities and buildings on those properties. So you can see there's a wide array of everything from courts to buildings to including the greenway that we maintain. People don't realize that any kind of park property in town or Focal Point by CBS or any of those little parkettes, this department actually maintains. So we're very proud of that. Also the causeway, we mow that area as well. And we make sure the beach is clean and nice. And we also maintain the playgrounds and the boat ramps and concessions. Those do need some work. But we maintain all of that. And we do this with a staff of essentially 6 maintenance workers, which includes the park foreman. So what does that entail? So we actually pick up trash, 140 cans a season, twice a week. So that we have trash cans out all year. Obviously during nicer weather, the spring through the fall, we have more frequent pickups and more trash cans out. And they are at all of our locations. We of course do the mowing. We work with our sprinkler systems. To save money, a lot of what we do, we've actually taken in-house. We don't contract it out. So we make sure that we have repairs that we can do ourselves. We winterize everything. And that also includes the pavilions, the bathrooms, everything else. We are responsible for approximately 27 athletic fields. So we maintain all the outfields, the infields. We're responsible for making sure the infield mix, the mounds are appropriate, buying mound clay. We make sure that we have the right equipment to make sure the fields look good for the leagues. And there's about a little over a dozen local leagues that compete for the fields. However, we don't line it. We don't have the staff to maintain it at that level. We are responsible for building facility repairs. So we maintain the gym in the annex. As far as cleaning, we no longer have the teen center on Washington Street, but we've moved to the annex as well in the old library. And of course, the community center, we're responsible for the entire maintenance of it, independent of DPW. We do a lot of post and rail fencing, especially on the greenway. What's unique about this department is that the maintenance staff actually does the custodial work, and that's not seen in necessarily other departments, especially with the influx of youth and people here. They do spend a lot of time on cleaning as well. And of course, we do tree removal, and we actually help with snow removal. So we assist DPW, and we also assist plow for human services now for the past 2 years, and the police station, as well as CCAP, so which is by Quidnick. So we actually, besides our own parks, and we actually had to clear those areas for emergency shelters. So we are quite busy and involved in snow removal. And across, of course, playground maintenance. A few years ago, we've had to take a lot of playgrounds down. They were old, not properly installed. So that's something that I know the community does need, and I would love to provide them. You can just see, just talking about playgrounds. So when I came here, there was metal shards. They had things right next to hard rocks, and the slides had big holes in them. And we have a lot of courts. A lot of them haven't been resurfaced or sealed in over 10 years. So you can see every year we put a little bit of money in to have someone fill in the cracks smooth so people don't roll their ankles, get hurt. It's for safety reasons. We do all this with minimal vehicles. So our 2004 Ford 150 and our 2006 Ford F250, there's frame rot, body rot, engine. You can see this is actually the foreman's vehicle that we take around to haul supplies and materials to different fields and mowers. So fairly soon, we're going to be very deficient in vehicles, and we're already down one already. So that's something that is on the radar. We actually are traveling on mowers on the greenway and on side streets to get to fields because we don't have enough vehicles to actually take a trail and put mowers on there. So you can see that there's a danger in that as well. And just little thing, we have some of the best maintenance staff I've ever worked with. They work hard, they work throughout the year, but there's 6 of them, and we finally were able to get a part-time seasonal staff. But essentially from April through the end of October, they're mowing, they're busy, they're focused on field. So we don't have enough staff to focus on the buildings, the other repairs. So I did get this from the ICMA saying that there should be 1 full-time employee per approximately 20 acres of maintained parkland. So we're looking about 15. Now, is that reasonable? Perhaps not, maybe not even the winter, but more part-time staff, or maybe an additional 1 or 2 maintenance staff, so we can start building up the facilities better and maintaining what we do have. And then I did also find this, I found this very interesting, that according to an older study by ICMA, that per capita populations under 1,000, towns spend about $45.96 per person. So our budget for just the operations for maintenance right now in this fiscal year is approximately $113,000. So with $113,000, we're maintaining all those properties, all those vehicles that need repair of that. So, and that doesn't include the staffing costs. That's just simply for the operations. But as I said, they have a great foreman, we have a great mechanic, and we have some of the hardest working staff. So even in the winter, we build trails to make them more accessible. We maintain the fields at Paine and other areas. And although the beach wasn't open last year, we recently brought in new sand and painted the lifeguard stands, and it is quite beautiful, built new picnic tables to save money. So I'm very proud of my staff, and they do a good job, even in freezing weather throughout the year. But what I really love is the programming, what makes Coventry a community. So, I mean, this is my passion. So of course I put lots of pictures, and I won't have you look at all of them, but you can see what we do. We interact with the police at the teen center. And this program is great because it takes kids who not necessarily into sports, or they don't necessarily want to do after school activities in a school setting. They can come here and interact and socialize. And we have a wonderful staff that leads that. We have our holiday events. We have our free concert series and our movie nights, and all that is covered through sponsorships. And we do a lot of nature education. So that's really important. We bring animals in, we bring them to farms, we have them do plantings. So again, makes them proud to live in Coventry. And I love when you go somewhere and they're like, Raena, we love this event, or thank you so much, we had a lot of fun. You know, these are some of my best memories of camp. So that means a lot to me. And you can just see more. You know, we build playgrounds, we maintain the bike path. This is the causeway. And then we also maintain the skate park as well. And we just recently resealed that because there are some deeper cracks. And again, we work with the police and the fire department and leagues such as Coventry Soccer Association. So we get a lot of volunteers from the community to help promote health, athletics, and also just to build relationships with different departments. We also work with the Paw Sox, the Little League champions, the high school, they're the ones who build the tree topper. And we do a lot of things about veterans and everything else for the community. So very proud of that. And you can just see there's just more pictures of what we do. And we've also had movie nights on the beach and car cruising nights. We get a lot of compliments from the community. A lot of that has to do with my program staff. Nicole Pierce, there used to be 3 people. There's currently 1 program person, and we've all taken on our responsibility, but because of her effort and because of our bookkeeper, Denise, helping out with programs, we've really maintained everything during COVID as much as possible. But here's a little bit of our registration information. When I first started here 5 years ago, there was approximately maybe under 2,000 names in our database that just started. We've more than doubled that in 5 years. We appeal to residents much more than non-residents. And this is from 1819 because even in COVID, we're still maintaining a lot of activity, but I want to give you a true representation of what we actually do. And because of limited space, we actually want to offer more programs. We are just not able to host that. So we like work with the housing authority to get space. At one point I was talking with the school because we were using some of their gym space before COVID. So, and then we're moving a lot of programs outside during nicer weather because again, there's a need and demand for our programs. We just don't have the facilities to host them. Through different various counting methods, like giving bags out and counters, we estimate around $7,500 for our free community events and about $3,000 at Briar Point Beach. 3,000 people at Briar Point Beach, excuse me. So as I said, in 1819, we offered over 1,000 activities. That is a lot different than 5 years ago. When I started, it was just a handful of activities. We started with 3 program staff, and now again, we have 1. The issue is that we're now hiring less local students and folks. So because we don't have enough staff here in our office to oversee those programs, so we're contracting a lot of that out. As I said, we used to offer 1,000 activities, but now we're offering still a lot with 1 person, over 500 so far, even in the time of COVID. So I'm very proud of them for that. That also means a lot of greater responsibility and workload, and there's a lot of burnout because of that. And it's rough when, you know, someone is working without lunches for the past year, and then leagues are calling them at night because they need to turn off the lights or there's a special field request. So my staff has taken on a lot. They come in on weekends, so they have a passion for it, but it can be very exhausting for them. And then some enhancements I'd like to make to recreation in this community. So yes, we love the community-wide events, and hopefully with COVID, hopefully subsiding, we can offer more free events, but also start offering fee events to create some kind of revenue generation in town, either through art festivals or food festivals, food truck festivals. So, but we would need staff, even if it was run by volunteers, we would need staff to help oversee the volunteers. I want to increase specialty summer camp opportunities. So right now we're offering some baseball and basketball camps and some tennis camps in addition to our regular summer program. But I would like to offer more sports and science programs as well for those who, again, are not into just the athletics. We've got a lot of interest in adult basketball and pickleball leagues, and our science programs are really popular. We've had anime and robotics programs, and there's an intense need in the community. So I want to continue moving that forward. And then I have some ideas for Briar Point Beach to generate revenue, you know, bring in some canoe and kayak rentals. And we've been increasing fees. So right now, between 90 and 100% of our program fees are covered through the actual fees that the people pay when they register. So it's not coming from the operating budget. And then we've been getting sponsorships for our events. So again, that's not coming out of the operating budget. That's coming from the businesses in town. And then some considerations I would love, again, because staffing from what I said, but also a Parks Commission. I believe there used to be one, and I would love to have them advocate for the department, or at least if we're going to use volunteers, they would be a voice, and they would tell me, have a better pulse on the community. So I would like maybe to consider starting a Parks Commission up again. And then just things, why it's so important to have it, you know, it provides youth employment and as well as adults in the community. A lot of caregivers, parents, now that they're going back to work, a lot of them depend on us for after school programs, for our camps. And with the elder population, they're really looking for activities now because they're very much isolated. And as I said, these programs and good spaces and parks provide a really good sense of place. And that's important to retain people in this town and to attract people in this town, in my opinion.
Ms. Blumenthal, we would like to leave time. Is this your last slide?
That's it.
Okay, because we do want to leave time for questions. I just want to remind the council that we will entertain questions, but this is not a discussion of the budget.
Right.
Ms. Blumenthal will be discussing presenting the Parks and Recreation budget next Monday on May 3rd. That's the time where the council can ask questions about the budget. But this is a general time by which members of the council can ask questions about the Parks and Recreation program. So I'm going to open it to questions for the council. Ms. Ludwig.
Thank you, President Dixon, and thank you, Director Blumenthal, for the information here. I did want to make a quick comment that I enjoyed the photos. They look very familiar. I've attended, and my family has attended multiple programs through the Parks and Rec programming, and we've very much enjoyed it. I did have just a question for you. Is there, or do you currently work at all with Human Services? I noticed you had talked about some of the programming that you're offering. Is there any overlap there between yourself and Director Robillard, or how do you kind of
We work very
differentiate there?
closely together. Like we share facilities sometimes, and I'm on his trauma-informed committee, which I know he spoke about in the past. So I'm always depending on their services for the mental health of our residents and our youth in our programs, as well as the adults. And I think moving forward, we can definitely collaborate more on some elder programs. I know we shared instructors in the past for yoga. And so I work very well with all the departments. So I think Human Services, the library, we all collaborate, and it does help very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Other questions? Mr. LeBlanc.
I don't have any questions. I just have a comment. Ms. Blumenthal, I really appreciate your passion, not only for what you do, but for your team. And I appreciate what you do for this community. You clearly have made every dollar stretch as far as possible. And just that's all. I just wanted to make a comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Mrs. Shockley.
Hi, I wanted to make a comment and then ask a question. I just wanted to say I take part in a lot of your camps. My kids play summer sports. And I will say that the affordability of what you do, for me as a parent, it lets me have my kids try something that I'm not sure they're interested in without spending too much money. The camps, the fact that the summer camp and the vacation camps are so inexpensive. For summer, it makes it possible for me to be able to put my kids in a couple specialty camps, you know, really focused on their own interests. But I know for some, the affordability is what helps them be able to go to work while their kids are home from school in a regular year. So from the first year I lived in Coventry, I really appreciated that summer camp and your vacation camps. So thank you for that. And I wanted to ask, have you spoken with the schools yet at all? I know that they were thinking of collaborating this summer for some educational programs, and I just wasn't sure.
So I met with Superintendent Levis, and he was very helpful. I've also met with Bob Robillard and Kathy Pendola at Human Services. So I'm still going to continue the conversation with the superintendent, but I know they're going to, Human Services is going to meet and help fund camperships, we call them, for those who can't afford it. And I just want you to know, I know we're not talking about the budget, but this year there's no camp expenses in the budget as far as personnel. So so although camp is still, it's a little bit higher than in years past, it's still very affordable. And I think between the school and Human Services and that collaboration, we're going to serve a lot of people in this community. That I just had someone call today and they were so happy. The mom's like, we have camp again. And I go, yes, I'm so excited. So I know everyone here is working really hard to make it as safe as possible and as fun as possible. We're also adding in more scheduling and obviously less field trips. So bringing a lot of different programs coming to us, which is very exciting.
No, but thank you. It's a great program. I really
much.
appreciate it as a resident.
And I don't have any children in any of these programs, but as an adult, I've been to concerts. I pulled in at the kayak access points. I've been to the beach. Of course, I've been on the bike path. And I would mention that I walked on the bike path all the way, not in one walk, but all the way from the Summit General Store all the way to Route 10 in Cranston. And by far, the Coventry section is consistently the best maintained of the entire district that I have walked, distance that I have walked. So I do appreciate the cleanliness of the path and the natural beauty and the ability of your team to keep it up in such a very, very good fashion. So thank you so
I
much.
take a lot of pride in it, and I do as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Blumenthal.
Thank you so much, everyone.
We're looking forward to seeing you next Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Item C7, the Coventry Public Library Director, Ms. Megan Weeden. Ms. Weeden, you've been asked to speak for about 15 minutes with questions. Would you like to screen share?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Weeden, you have about 15 minutes with questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody. I'm Megan Weeden. I'm the director of the Coventry Library, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk tonight. I wasn't sure what you were looking for, so I thought I'd just take the opportunity to give you an overview of everything that the Coventry Public Library has to offer. I hope you're all library users and that you'll help spread the word to all the residents about everything that we have to offer. So this is the main, going too fast already. This is the main library as you know it. And it also includes the Green Library, which is out in the western part of the town. So the Coventry Public Library educates, informs, entertains, and enriches the lives of all of our patrons. And we strive to provide comprehensive library services to users of all ages, free and equal access to collections and services that address their ever-changing educational, cultural, and recreational needs, traditional and emerging technologies that expand and enhance library services, library buildings that are inviting and well-maintained, timely and accurate information that informs and empowers our patrons, a close working relationship with local schools and other town agencies to ensure the most effective use of taxpayer resources, a variety of early childhood programs that bring families together and foster a lifelong love of reading, programs for all ages, and an annual summer reading program for children to help avoid the summer slide. So this is just a brief overview of our numbers from 2019 to 2020. So it is a little bit different than normal because it was from, let's see, July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. I became the library director in October of 2019. So I had a couple of months right before COVID hit. And so these numbers do reflect from, when we closed down in March, but that year we had about 90,000 visitors to the library. We offered 736 programs, and we had almost 13,000 people attend our programs. We started doing curbside pickups when after COVID, and we had 874 from April through June. And we delivered 198 items to our homebound patrons. We had 116,892 items were checked out, plus an additional almost 30,000 in e-materials were checked out. We have over 9,000 active library borrowers, and last year we gave out 708 new library cards. We also had 14,000 public computer sessions, and we have over 2,000 followers on social media. So I just wanted to give an overview of our staff. We have 31 employees, 7 full-timers, 21 part-timers, plus 2 custodians and 1 IT person that we share with Town Hall. 11 of our employees have master's in library science degrees, and many others have some college experience or other degrees. We also have the Literacy Volunteers of Kent County that are housed in the Coventry Public Library. They've been there since 1980, I believe. And that includes a part-time program director and a part-time office assistant. And this is just some of our staff. This is our assistant director up here on the right, and our head of adult services on the left is Kiki Butler. And then down below is our head of circulation, and Sandy Hazard is one of our circulation staff. So I want to give an overview of our library services because we offer a lot more than just books. We also offer fishing poles, telescopes. We have a ghost hunting kit that you can borrow. We have a treasure hunter that you can borrow to look for treasure on the beach. We circulate ukuleles. We have binge boxes full of movies that you can binge on, video games, movies. We have discounted tickets to museums. We let you borrow cake pans. We have a 3D printer, and we also just got parking lot Wi-Fi installed. This is, you can see our telescope and our 3D printer here. And then down below here is our one of our ukuleles. It actually kind of looks like a banjo, but it's actually a ukulele. And with your library card, you also get free access to a lot of digital content. You can access Ancestry.com to research your ancestors. You can access Hoopla, which gives you access to movies, music, audiobooks. Canopy is all, they have a lot of documentaries on there. And RIGL is downloading music. We have digital magazines. You can access consumer reports online with your library card. The Providence Journal. Overdrive is for ebooks, audiobooks, and magazines. There's a lot of digital content that you can get with your library card. And this is our children's and teen services. They're very busy and they do a lot of different programs. They have story time for all ages, from babies through school age kids. Right now we're doing virtual, and we're doing some in-person outdoor programming. They also do a getting ready for kindergarten program that's very popular. And take and make crafts. We have performers that regularly come in to put on some performances like magic shows and storytellers, music programs. Every summer we have a summer reading program for the kids so that they can continue reading and earn prizes just to make it fun over the summer for them. We just started circulating these at-home learning kits so they can, some of them are like learning how to tell time or money. The teen services just started these bookworm boxes where they circulate. It's like a subscription service where they can subscribe, and then the teen librarian puts together a box of books that based on their interests. Pre-COVID, we had a very active children's play area that's since been taken away right now. Hopefully someday we can bring that back. And we do a lot of outreach to all of the area preschools and daycares. We have an outreach librarian that goes to each one of them and does story time in the preschools and the daycares. And we also provide teen volunteer opportunities for the teens in school who they have to get a certain number of volunteer hours. And so they're able to do that at the library. So just some pictures of our programs. This was, we collaborated with Parks and Rec over on the left here for their annual Halloween program. This is our Trunk or Treat. This summer, Tales and Tales is the theme of our summer reading program. This is our bookworm box subscription program that I just mentioned. And this is up here on the right is it was a virtual art class that we just held. And down below last week, we had a story walk on the front lawn, which is, you can read a book. It was a for Earth Day. And this is our Adult Services Department. This is our reference desk. And they offer various adult programs, virtual and in person. They offer reference and technology help, job seeking assistance, public computers, technology classes, readers advisory. Our business services are very, very busy. We do a ton of faxing for people and copying. We have notaries on staff, and we help people with scanning. We also offer wireless printing so they can print right from their devices. And the reference librarians also help with interlibrary loans. So while we are part of a statewide collaborative where all the libraries are interconnected, if there's something that you can't find at a Rhode Island library, we can actually get it from any library around the country. And we also do proctored exams, which is actually a very popular service because with a lot of the online college courses, they require, sometimes students have to come in and have a proctored exam. So we do that for them as well. These are just some of our promotional flyers for our upcoming programs. We have a virtual book bingo coming up, a virtual trivia night, and a virtual, this one just passed, but it was a Forgotten Drinks of Colonial New England just passed. Our Green Library is, it's about 15 minutes west of the main branch. If you have ever been there, sometimes people don't realize that we have another branch in Coventry. But it's a cute little small branch. It's got a cozy fireplace, and it's very popular for programming. The Green Library does a lot of different programming. She had, these pictures are from, the before times, but this was a bear program, and she had an after school club and Halloween program and crafting. They're very busy with programming. And these are literacy volunteers of Kent County. They've been housed in the library since 1980, and they provide one-on-one tutoring to adults with low English literacy skills. They've managed to continue doing this virtual during COVID. And some upcoming projects. I just got word that we have received a $10,000 grant to fund a pilot program for a mobile library unit. So this will allow us to set up pop-up libraries around the town this summer and bring our services further into the community, where we can register people for library cards, check out library materials, demonstrate digital services, and provide outdoor programming. The project is from a grant from the Rhode Island Office of Library and Information Services and using funds from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. I reached out to Human Services and the Coventry Housing Authority today, and also we'll be meeting with Raena next week to discuss how we can collaborate this summer to bring our mobile library to them. And so right now we are open Monday through Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Thursday and Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturday, 9 to 4. Beginning June 1st, we're going to expand those hours a little bit. We're going to be open until 8 Monday through Wednesday. And Thursday and Friday will still close at 5. And Saturday we close at 1. Those are our summer hours normally. And for all the latest news, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Or if you go to our website, you can subscribe to our e-newsletter and find out about all of this stuff that's happening at the Coventry Library.
Thank you so much, Ms. Weeden. Members of the council, questions that you may have for our director of the Coventry Public Library. And I just want to remind you that this is not a discussion of the budget, is simply get to know the library better. Any questions? Mrs. Shockley.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I was actually at the library today. Much to my chagrin, my children are not big readers. but my son is reading a series, so slowly but surely we're getting through it. And the library is a big help with that because I can let him try things, see if he's interested.
It's all about finding the right book.
I love reading, and the fact that my children don't breaks my heart on a daily basis. But I do wonder with the adult services, you know, how many people have been coming in, especially with, has it been any different with COVID, to be able to use the internet and computer services, whether for benefits or to look for jobs?
Yeah, it's been busy. So, you know, we did have to change what we normally do. We used to have 13 public computers, and now we're down to, I think, 3.
14, Megan.
14? Okay.
We're down to 3 because that's all that we're keeping open for social distancing, or we just have
Yes.
3 computers?
No, we have more. It's just that we we have a lot more computers but we had to reduce just for social distancing purposes. We don't have a lot of space. And so to space them out, we had to reduce it to 3. So we do it by appointment only. And it's been working out fine. You know, they get an hour each day. And, you know, we're slowly able to increase those services.
Okay, that's good. And what about the playground? Do you know if that's going to be opening up soon? I have had a couple of residents reach out about it. We don't know a lot of local playgrounds.
That's actually run by Parks and Rec, but
I have the wrong person.
Yeah, but I believe it should be open now.
Okay.
I thought it was reopening very soon if it's not open already.
Great. All right, thank you.
Other questions by members of the council? Ms. Ludwig.
Thank you, President Dixon. Ms. Weeden, you had mentioned in your slides that there's a multiple adult areas that people can come in and get assistance on, such as job seeking.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just explain that a little bit more? Is it someone that you can meet with, or what's that service?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's a service that was kind of before COVID, although now that most of our staff is getting vaccinated, it will probably be resumed. But before they were able to book an appointment with a librarian one-on-one, and they could sit down with them, you know, an hour at a time, and they could help them with job seeking. And we did that a lot. We were trained in helping them file for unemployment or, you know, search for different jobs. Yeah. But our librarians are trained to help them with that.
I didn't realize that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I just mentioned that I was in the library myself today. I use the library quite often for interlibrary loan. My request from something from the Library of Congress didn't work out, but today I got a book that came all the way from upstate New York, and it came in a very speedy fashion.
Oh,
So
good.
I was very, very pleased. I'm in 3 book discussion groups, and I never can get the books that I need. And the library has been very helpful in getting me very quick service on books that they get from someplace in the United States, and they seem to come on, I don't know, some carrier pigeon, because they are arriving very quickly. So I do appreciate that great service that you're offering. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that I can even borrow a banjo. I think I mentioned this at another meeting. So if I want to take or give myself banjo lessons, I can do that. And I can even borrow a fishing pole because I don't have one here. So it's helpful to know that I don't have to invest in a lot of things, but I can go to my public library. So that's a wonderful service that you do offer to people. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for participating, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. For item C8, Ms. Brenda Jacob, the president of the Western Rhode Island Civic Historical Society that manages Paine House, will present. Ms. Jacob, do you want to screen share with us?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So my name is Brenda Jacob, and I want to thank you all for having us tonight and allowing us to present. I'm hoping that you'll be able to learn a little bit about us and what some of our ideas are coming up with regarding the alarm house.
Excuse me, Ms. Jacob, we did receive your presentation this afternoon. I I don't think it was a slideshow. It was
No,
series of Word documents, correct?
right. I have a slideshow prepared for tonight, but I did give everybody in the council a copy of it. And also in the packet, you would have received the letters of recommendation from Senator Gordon Rogers and from Representative George Nardone
We did.
in that packet as well.
Thank you. I will ask you to try to keep your presentation to 10-15 minutes
Yep.
maximum. That will allow questions by the members of the council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, can you see the slides okay?
Yes.
Okay. From the beginning. Okay, so this is about Rhode Island, Western Rhode Island Civic Historical Society. A little bit about us right now. We have approximately 48 members. Of those, 10 are very, very active members that do most of the volunteering and the maintenance and the upkeep. We have approximately 31 businesses that are local sponsors from all around Coventry. Our beginnings in 1943, Mildred Bassett, professor of history, saw a need to preserve history in the western part of Rhode Island. She was the founding member of the Rhode Island Civic Historical Society. The first meeting of the society was held in 1945. And at that time, there were approximately 600 members with delegates from every town in Rhode Island. And for those of you who have been in the Paine House, that's how we have such an eclectic collection from all over the state, is because of all the 600 members. Once we got the building, everybody in all the different families donated items from all over the state. Zilpha Foster willed the house to the society in 1953 in memory of her mother Phoebe, brother Herbert, and sister Orvilla Paine. She was the last living member of her family. So when she passed, she also donated the property for the Naughty Oak School, the property for the fire station on Station Street, Forster Field, the property for the community center, a large endowment to Kent County Hospital, and many other properties and items. In fact, a lot of the people on Station Street actually received their property from her when she passed. Our first official open house was held on June 18th, 1955. Our mission statement: the purpose of the society shall be to preserve and promote the history of Western Rhode Island through community outreach, civic activity, and the stewardship of the artifacts, documents, and structures under its care. We were incorporated in 1943, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit. Over the years, a lot of this has become an icon for the town of Coventry. It was placed on the National Historic Register of Historic Places in 1974. But a lot of times when you Google search the town of Coventry, the Paine House a lot of time comes up in all the photos. The Paine House has been a tavern under a few names. It was first the Bennett Tavern, and which was originally licensed because it was a law back then to be a tavern in order to hold a public meeting. So they had to get a tavern license. It was here that the meeting to form the town of Coventry was held, was in when it was the Bennett Tavern, and that was 1691 to 1742. At one time, the corner of Station Street and 117 was actually known as Braytonville. That's when it was the Brayton Tavern. It had a clock shop, and it was a boarding house, and it was a tavern, a schoolhouse. It was many different things during the Brayton era. And then it was the Holden Tavern from 1797 to 1849, which is how Holden Street got its name. So right now what we have going on is we have a team of dedicated volunteers who maintain the house and grounds. We are funded by membership dues, donations, sponsorships from local businesses, and grants. Therefore, we take our civic component very seriously, and we like to give back to the community whenever we can. One of our favorite events is hosting the annual Flag Day. We do this with the Vietnam veterans and the Korean War veterans for our Flag Day ceremony, and they had a special request that we have a free community cookout. So every year we cook up some burgers for them, and that is a really great event. We usually have a bugle player and all in accord. And we also invite the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts to participate in that ceremony with us as well. Another great event that we host is our holiday open house, which is a free event. We decorate the house for the period and invite people from the community to come and have refreshments and enjoy the house all beautifully decorated. Heritage Day, we usually have in September. We do this usually in the same time as Museum Day, the Smithsonian Museum Day. That's a nationwide event. This is a great event for us. We have local vendors. We have the Providence Brigade Band that comes. We have the Spinners Guild and the Weavers Guild that do the Living History Museum events, and that's is usually a very good draw for us. That day, because we do it with Smithsonian Day, the tours are also free for the house. Our living history exhibits, we actually, in your upper right-hand corner, we have a loom that is from one of the local mills. Ironically, we found a barn loom and we thought it was a pile of lumber in our attic about 5 years ago, and the Spinners and Weavers Guilds saw it and they like, oh, that's a barn loom. So we have moved that into our basement and we have completely assembled it. And we actually have one of our members, Sandy Chattel, that actually weaves on it, and we sell tablecloths and different linens that we make right on the loom. So that's a really nice living history event, because that was a very significant part of our history with the barn looms, because they used to assemble them and disassemble them so that they couldn't collect the tax money on the fabric. We host a lot of school field trips. We do this in coordination with Nathaniel Green Homestead. A lot of times we have the kids walk the bike path, and what they do is we take half a group at our house, they take half a group at their museum, and then we swap kids, and then we each offer our lawns and leaf piles, and the kids have picnics and bring their lunches. So they are able to walk over. But we have had kids come from as far as the Nathaniel Green School out in Providence that have come and visited the house as well. We offer community service opportunities for kids, such as kids that are looking for hours in the honors program, Eagle Scout projects. In fact, the Liberty Tree that's in the front of the town hall was a project that was done by an Eagle Scout when we donated the Liberty Tree. That was an Eagle Scout project. We have Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and 4-H clubs. And we've also had some great team building days for local businesses like Citizens Bank and Dassault Systems. They come and do community service projects, and they do team building, which has been very helpful with us with our bigger projects. Other notable events and community involvement. The Paine House was instrumental in the development of the Coventry Historic District because it was the first historic district that Paine House is, and the members of the society established the Historic District Commission. We do project mentorship programs for Bryant University, Roger Williams University, and Johnson and Wales University. We've also hosted cruise ship receptions. We've had a tent and had a catered event for cruise ships. We've done white night wine tasting. We did take part in the Rhode Island Historic Preservation Conference and hope to do that again. We know that the Coventry Preservation Commission is working on that again, and that's something that we'd really like to participate with them on. We've done Chamber of Commerce receptions, and we've donated Liberty trees, as I mentioned, to the town and to the Nathaniel Green Homestead. We love sharing our artifacts with the Coventry Library. We get to highlight a lot of our special knickknacks and antiques that we have, and we pick different themes. Sometimes the library will request themes, and other times we just kind of come up with something that might be significant for that time period. So we also have done, in the past, we've done some programs with them, like with Rise Up Paranormal groups and the Abraham Lincoln program. So we really like working with the library as well. Our future plans. It has always been a thought that someday we would be able to expand and open a fire museum, because the fire station on Station Street was in question because of the way the deed was written. Zilpha had wanted that to stay some type of a fire department or and it be linked with the fire department. So, but that never came to fruition, mainly because we didn't have the resources to, to try and get that building, or even if we were able to get the building back, to be able to maintain and upkeep it. We do have a lot of interesting items in our collection that would give us a good start for a fire museum. We just have never had the actual space to showcase the items we have. We have fire, leather fire hoses, we have tanks, we have different types of fire apparatus. And the bottom right-hand corner of this slide, you'll see this is an actual fire bucket from the Batty family, which lived on Batty Street, right down from Holden. But our most treasured items are in our apparatus collection are the fire pumpers. We've been told that one was from Anthony Mill and one was from Harris Mill. The soda pump dated to 1867, and the squirt gun dates back to 1817 and was actually made in Boston. And it was made by Paul Revere's apprentice, Stephen Thayer. So that's a very significant piece, and one that we would like to get into a temperature controlled environment. So that, because that one does need a little bit of repair. And so we would really like to have a nice space to showcase that piece. So we have reason to believe that the fire dispatch center, which was on the south side of Paine House, was the original site for the blacksmith shop. And that's where a lot of the nails were actually made to build the Paine House. The acquisition of this building would fit perfectly into our mission statement, because we would be preserving the building. It would allow us to expand, providing a better environment for the fire apparatus that we already have in storage. And it would give local firemen and women a place to showcase their collection and allow us new opportunities for community outreach and activities. One of the first things we would do is apply to get it on the National Historic Register. Because of its age and its location in the designated historic district, we don't foresee a problem getting it on the register. By doing that, it'll also help us to secure grants for the restoration and upkeep of the building and bring it to a point where it can be sustainable. Because there are quite a few repairs that need to be done on that. There's slates falling off the roof. The rain gutters need to be fixed and replaced. The back side of the building, there needs to be a lot of masonry work because of the bricks that are falling out. And that's just on the outsides, and a lot of repainting and a lot of other miscellaneous things that are going to need to be done to the building. So we're going to rely a lot on grants to help bring the building back to its glory. As you can see, we're very close to the building. Our front yard abuts the property. I know that one of the challenges for any other use for this building is that there's no parking, but we do own the parking lot across from Paine House. So we do have ample parking, and we also have sidewalk for safety for people to cross the street. Some of the perks for the Paine House for acquiring the alarm building is, first of all, we have no bathroom in the Paine House. We do have a beautiful outhouse that we just recently restored, but it is non-functioning. We don't have running water. We don't have heated meeting or workspace, and we still need temperature controlled storage. And there's better handicap accessibility so that we can, open that up more for like a showroom for the handicap. And as far as the civic engagement, we'd like to expand our programs and events. We could do more interactive children's exhibits, fire awareness and safety, and we can pay tribute to our local firemen and women. And that will also help us to attract new members and give us a lot of ways that we can give back to the community by various programs and whatnot. The legacy behind the alarm building is an important piece of our town history, and one that we pledge to uphold by keeping the name the Stanley J. Merck Fire Alarm Building. And many of you know Stanley. He served as a volunteer firefighter at the Anthony Fire Department, Coventry Fire District from the age of 15 before becoming the fire chief in 1961 until his retirement in 2006. He was the one who established the first centralized fire alarm system for the town of Coventry. And he is the former director of civil defense in Coventry and a member of the state of Rhode Island Emergency Response Commission until his retirement. He also served in the Merchant Marines during World War II and was the owner of SJM Electric Company in Anthony, he was a master electrician. And he also belonged to the Rhode Island Fire Chiefs Association. And in talking to a lot of the firemen, it's very important to them that this building stay named in his memory. And that's something that we would definitely do. We appreciate your time and consideration with this proposal, and we hope you'll see the value in keeping this building historic and trust that we are the right organization to do so. We will continue promoting a legacy that means so much to so many people, and we'll do our best to continue to be good stewards of the building and artifacts. And again, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to present tonight. And we also in the packet gave an invitation for a site visit to any of the town council members that would like to come and see the building. All you have to do is give us a call and we can set up an appointment and you can come and see, because we're still kind of shut down as far as COVID goes until it's safer than we are. I've adapted all of our programs this year to be able to be COVID compliant, and we're hoping that things will open up. But we do have a lot of projects going on. We currently have the Champlain Foundation. We have money that we're restoring our 3rd floor and doing a lot of painting. The Palmery grant we just received was for a beautiful historic sign to mark the Paine House. And the 1772 Foundation, along with Preserve Rhode Island, we have a lot of painting and some plaster repair going on. And we're in the middle of changing every exhibit around so that when we do finally get to open again, we'll have a fresh new look for everybody. So
thank you so much, Ms. Jacob. Ms. Ludwig and I had the opportunity to visit the fire alarm building just a few weeks ago with our former interim town manager, Mr. Warzycha. So we were able to take a tour, see the condition of the building, both inside and outside, and get an idea of the space available. I'll open it up to questions from members of the council. Any questions from members of the council? So Ms. Jacob, I'll ask you a question. What is your proposal actually? What is it that you would like the council to do?
So we put in originally when we put in the bid, we put in the bid for $1 so that we would get the building donated to our society. And what that will do is it'll save the town money, because there's a lot of repairs that need to be done to the building, and we will take on the responsibility for maintaining that building and doing all the repairs. I also know there's a deed issue regarding the building. They can't find a clear title on it, but with it coming to us as a historic, it's going to stay historic. It'll just be an add-on to the Paine House property, and it would still be maintained right within the historic district. So that way it wouldn't lead to any type of a title issue, because, it'll essentially just roll over to us.
Well, I think we would have to check on that with our legal counsel, just to double check on that information.
Yeah, it was noted in the bid, and then when we did the bid, they made the bidders aware that there wasn't a clear title. It's actually there's a special name for the type of deed that they're going to be giving out to the bid winner. But we're hoping that we'll be able to get the building, like I said, and be able to open it up for the community and be able to expand and do the fire museum, which I think would benefit, would be able to benefit the town as well, because that's such a quaint section of the town. And to have yet another draw into the historic district, I think would be a nice draw for the town as well, especially with the close proximity to the bike path, because people will be able to access it from the bike path as well. So now you'll have several historic properties along the bike path, which I think ties in good.
Thank you, Ms. Jacob. As you know, we're not taking any action this evening as a council, but we certainly appreciate the history that you've provided to us of the important people in our community, the history of the Paine House, and also your interest in the fire alarm building as a fire museum. So thank you so much.
Thank you for letting us present tonight. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Okay. Okay, item C9. On February 17th, 2021, the town council and the school committee had a joint legislative meeting with our Coventry, Rhode Island Assembly delegation. Each presented several bills that were of interest. This is a follow-up to that meeting. This evening, Mr. Gorham is going to give us an update on two of the bills that were of special interest to the town council, and then we're going to ask Ms. Patno to give an update on those bills that the school committee was very interested in. So, Mr. Gorham, would you start, please?
Yes, thank you. So the first bill, which is which was a proposed amendment to the current taxing authority given to cities and towns to raise money through its levy on an annual basis. The town council endorsed the proposal that was essentially drawn up by the town manager at the time, Ed Warzycha, with my assistance. All the amendment would have provided was that if the town experienced a certain percentage of development within the fiscal year, that the town could add that to the tax levy rather than be unable to add it under the current scheme. So it just gave the town more ability to raise tax revenue for current development. The way that the law is written now, the tax levy cannot be changed from year to year. You have to go back to the previous year's tax levy in order to calculate what the levy should be for the current year. And that has been very restrictive for Coventry because we have a lot of growth and development, particularly in commercial and business areas such as center of New England and other places. Unfortunately, none of the senators or representatives who attended the legislative night were willing to sponsor that amendment. My own feeling is that they are afraid that they would be accused of engendering a tax increase, which it really isn't. It's just a different way of calculating the levy. This is not the first time we've been unable to get a sponsor, but it is a little bit frustrating that it's the same result again. Personally, having spent 10 years in the General Assembly, to me, this is a bill that makes a great deal of sense for fast-growing towns like Coventry. In essence, the way that levy is structured under state law right now, you're punished if you grow. I don't think that should be the case. So the other bill is not really a bill that has been sponsored by the town of Coventry or any other city or town other than representatives from the city of Providence. That is House Bill 5269, which proposes to, in essence, outlaw any tax sales for unpaid sewer bills, water bills, and other things of that nature. I really think this is an effort on the part of some representatives from the city of Providence who represent some of the more adversely affected parts of the city where people lose their property to tax sales for their inability to pay a water bill or a sewer bill. It's not really germane to Coventry, but or any of the other outlying cities or towns, but using the one-size-fits-all approach that is very common in the General Assembly, the Providence representatives who proposed this bill wanted to apply statewide. I think the workaround would be if the bill moves would be to propose that it be limited to Providence, since that's really who the sponsors, that's really the venue that the sponsors wanted to address. However, the bill has gone to committee, and the committee said they will hold it for further study, which is typically, but not always, an ominous sign for the bill. You really don't know what's going to happen in the General Assembly until the last hour of the last night, or actually usually the last morning, early morning, when the General Assembly is in session. Until that final gavel comes down, you just don't know what a bill is going to do. So it's impossible to predict the future of this bill. It would have an adverse effect on Coventry's sewer system and its ability to make sure that sewer bills are paid. If you think about it this way, if you don't have this ability, and the town of Coventry does, there's really no inducement for people to pay their bill. It would be like removing the lien that applies statewide to all property taxes in every city or town. If you were to pull that away, there would be no real consequence to not paying your taxes, and the town would have to become a collection agency for unpaid taxes. General Assembly made a decision a long time ago not to do that because it would starve most of the municipalities in our state from having funding. So hopefully this bill goes nowhere, but if it does, I think we need to really quickly consider getting an amendment in through one of our senators or representatives or both to limit the application of the bill. That's it. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions? Ms. Ludwig?
Thank you, President Dixon. So Mr. Gorham, the first update you gave on 44-5-2, I reviewed the response from our assembly persons and senators, and it is my belief that they are not understanding what our request was.
I
The
agree.
response that we received seemed to me to indicate that they thought we were asking for an increase in the overall percentage. So for example, going from 4 to say 5%. And that is absolutely not what we are asking.
Correct.
So I'm not sure if this is something for President Dixon, but can we have something for us to talk about this topic again to see if we want to pursue another review with those persons to provide an example and some further information on the example we're providing, because I truly don't believe, based on the response that was provided, that they were fully understanding what the request was.
We certainly can add this as an agenda item and bring together the appropriate people. Right now, it's just an update on our agenda, so we certainly can do that in the near term. So thank you for that suggestion.
If I could just mention, I think Member Ludwig has a very good idea, and I'll tell you why. That bill will become germane again when the General Assembly undertakes to adopt a budget, the state budget. There are many financial adjustments that are made for cities and towns that are part of the state budget. So if you could turn the collective opinion of our legislative delegation to maybe be pro Coventry on that bill, it might work. It might work. And I agree. There's a very, very profound misperception of the bill. So a meeting would definitely help.
Okay, excellent. We'll make sure that that happens. Okay, ready to turn our attention to our next presenter, item C10. I'd like to welcome Chairperson of the Coventry School Committee, Mrs. Catherine Patno. Mrs. Patno, an update on the bills that you presented at the legislative meeting on February 17.
Thank you, President Dixon. I'm not going to go through every single one. If the council members have a specific question, they can ask me, and maybe I'll be able to answer something more than what I'm going to present. But I did speak with Tim Duffy, who is the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Association of School Committees. He is the lobbyist that we have. He's the Executive Director, but he basically is a lobbyist for all of the school committees in Rhode Island. And he goes to the State House and or does attend Zoom meetings, gives testimony for, in hopes of making sure that any bill that has any kind of education is of interest to anybody in education. He basically will give testimony to any committee on a particular bill. And so when I asked him about these, I think it was 6 individual things, he basically said what Attorney Gorham said, in that all the bills are held for further study. So it basically means that, you know, they've gone to the committees. They can choose to let them out of committees for discussion for the full GA, but typically that means that they'll probably, well, you don't know, they could die and never come back out again, and then just be reintroduced next year, which actually some of the bills that were on our list, I think might have been previously introduced and didn't go anywhere. So I wish I could tell you something more positively, that, you know, all of them are being considered and are going to be discussed by both the House and the Senate, but I cannot give you that answer. I'll give you that summary. So I don't know if there's any questions about any of those. Like I said, I don't really have anything more to add, quite frankly. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions by members of the council? All right, thank you very much
You're welcome.
for waiting for your moment on our agenda. Thank you.
Well, luckily, there's been some very interesting discussions tonight. So learning about the other different departments in town has been very insightful. So I don't regret sitting here and listening to all of that. So thank you very much for the invitation, and carry on.
Yes, we will carry on. We hope that all of the agenda items were interesting, not just some of them, Mrs. Patno.
Of course.
Agenda item G1, resolution to continue and renew the emergency declaration through August 1st, 2021. This is reference pages 18 to 25. The resolution is on page 18. Just as a reference, at our meeting on February 22nd, 2021, we extended the emergency declaration until May 1st. So that means that there is an error in the declaration. It says until February 28th, 2021. That should read May 1st, 2021. But first of all, I need a motion for the resolution, and then we can entertain an amendment.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'd like to offer an amendment that the date February 28th, 2021 be changed to May 1st, 2021, because that's when the emergency declaration that we had voted on February 22nd was extended to. Do I have a motion for the amendment?
Is it, it sounds like you're making a motion for that amendment. Do you want me to second the motion then?
Yes, I'm making an amendment. I need to have a motion to approve the amendment.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendment.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. So I believe, Mr. Gorham, we don't have to vote on the amendment right now. Is that correct?
You're on mute, Nick.
You're on mute.
Yes, thank you. You should vote on the amendment now, yes.
Okay. All right, all in
And then
favor?
on the motion as a whole.
Okay. May I have a all those in favor of the amendment to change February 28th, 2021 to May 1st, 2021, please raise your hand. Okay, the amendment passes 4-0. Now we'll have a motion. We have a motion to extend the resolution to August 1st with the change of February 28th, 2021 to May 1st, to May 1st, 2021. And the emergency declaration will be extended through August 1st, 2021. All in favor of that motion?
President Dixon,
Yes,
can I ask a question before we vote, please?
sure, yes.
So I'm just curious about why are we extending this through August if, for example, we have opened the town hall back to the public? I believe I saw that on the town website from last week. So I don't know if maybe Mr. Marchant or someone could comment on kind of the reopening plan here based off of this, that we're basically saying we're having an emergency declaration through August 1st. What does that mean versus reopening?
Mr. Gorham, would you please discuss that? Because we had discussed this when we were planning the agenda. I believe the state still has us under an emergency declaration. Is that correct?
Yes, the governor's emergency declaration remains in effect. This simply enables the town council president to act in emergency situations should they arise. It's just sort of done in tandem with the state's emergency order that was originally implemented by then Governor Raimondo. If conditions change under the charter, the town council may at any time simply end the efficacy of this this local declaration. It can be terminated. If you feel safer just doing it until, say, July 1, you can do that, but you'd have to renew it, you know, if things are not quite out of the emergency mode at that point. It's really just a judgment call on timing.
Okay, Mr. Marchant.
To address Ms. Ludwig's question about the opening of town hall for the public access, that was an administrative decision I made based on the fact that the library was open, other facilities are open, and with the COVID-19 protocols in place to keep everybody safe with social distancing, masks, and sanitizer, we felt it was safe to open for business and resume some degree of public service. However, I think the emergency declaration more specifically allows this public meeting to continue happening via Zoom rather than in public.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question, Ms. Ludwig?
Yes, thank you. So they're separate in essence. One is not depending on the other. Thank you.
Correct. Any other questions? Mr. LeBlanc?
Just one. So extending this through August 1st, essentially that is stating that we will not have in-person meetings until at least August? Or are we allowed to have in-person meetings should circumstances allow for that?
Mr. Gorham would have to give a decision on that.
Just a moment, please. There's a section of the governor's order that allows us to do the Zoom meetings. I'm not sure that we need to do the local resolution for Zoom meetings, though. I think we're able to do Zoom meetings under the governor's order alone.
Yeah.
This is more just I'm sorry I don't have the section of the charter at hand, but when we initially did this, we simply invoked the portion of the charter that gives the council the authority in an emergency to appoint a person to be the person who can make emergency decisions as necessary without having to have the council meet for every single one of those decisions. And at the time, the council appointed Town Council President McGee. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Madam President, you're currently serving in that same capacity. So I don't think this has anything to do with the Zoom availability option for us. I think it's more about appointing one person to make decisions when it's simply not practical to have the whole council consider it.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Garner, could you please do some research for us, so we could report on this in the next meeting to determine how long we should be continuing with Zoom meetings or whether we would be able to make some changes?
Does the council want to try to transition to in-person meetings? Is that what, I just want to make sure I understand the request.
We can't make any, we can't make any decisions this evening. It's not on our agenda to do so.
Right.
But I'm just asking you to just do a little research for us.
Sure, will do.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. The emergency declaration is extended to August 1st. It can always be rescinded depending upon what the governor does. Correct, Mr. Gorham?
Yes, that's correct.
Excellent.
I think there is.
I don't think we voted on it.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It is not extended. It can be, but it has not yet been.
You don't know what's going to happen next. Okay. All right. The amendment was accepted. All right. All in favor of the resolution as amended, please raise your hand. Thank you. 4-0. Okay, item G1, appointment of the town manager, Benjamin Marchant, to the Coventry Municipal Pension Board for a term expiring April 9th, 2022, page reference 26. Mr. Marchant replaces our former interim town manager, Mr. Warzycha. So this is on page 26. Do I have a motion to appoint Mr. Marchant as to the Municipal Pension Board for a term expiring April 9th, 2022? May I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 4-0. Thank you. The motion is approved. Item D3, the appointment of the town manager, Benjamin Marchant, to the Coventry Police Pension Board for a term expiring April 9th, 2022. Mr. Marchant replaces our former interim town manager, Mr. Warzycha. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. 4 yeas, no nays. The motion is approved. Item E1. Application of a new victualling license for Blackstone Herbs and Coffee Bar. Is Mr. Eddie Sandoval present? Mr. Sandoval, would you?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, could you please speak to your application, please?
Yeah, of course. So we're looking to open up a second location of Blackstone Herbs and Coffee Bar at 710 Center of New England Boulevard. We're a cafe and CBD shop that specializes in vegan eats and specialty crafted coffee and lattes. We also serve organic CBD that's grown at our farm in Dudley, Massachusetts. And we provide a unique experience and space for like gatherings and quick bites and delicious drinks.
May I have a motion to approve? It seem to be on. May I have a motion to approve? Application for the victualling license.
Mr. Sandoval, can you please mute while you're not talking?
Oh yeah, sorry, 1 second.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, may I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Mrs. Chalkley?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that in the area, that a CBD bar is allowed. Nick, that may, Mr. Form, that might be you.
Is that a question to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an echo chamber still.
Hmm.
Does everyone hear it? I
I'll
do.
mute.
Well, in any event, is it Mr. Sandoval? Hello?
It is. I think he's staying muted.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Could you describe what effect, if any, the CDB drinks or whatever the offering is? Just be a little more detailed about that.
Hi, yes. So we do sell CBD on the side. We're just a CBD shop, and then we sell our coffee. It's basically a retail CBD shop and then coffee bar.
Do you need a license to sell CBD in Rhode Island?
It goes under retail license. So there's no specific license to sell CBD. It's completely legal in the state. And we already have a location in Cumberland, Rhode Island. So yeah, CBD is completely under the retail license by the state.
What is this CBD product composed of?
It's 100% pure cannabidiol oil. So it's non-psychoactive. Cannabidiol. So pretty much it's the extraction of the hemp plant, basically.
Mr. Gorham, I would really need a legal opinion concerning this, because when I read the application, it was not clear to me what was being sold. And so I just want to make sure that it is legal within Coventry to do this.
And I'm not concerned about the legality. If it's not, I am concerned about the legalities in Coventry, but I thought some of the big box stores had just rules based on it being in center of New England.
So that's an additional question.
Well,
There are certain rules, yes.
The only zoning requirement that has to do with controlled substances, for lack of a better term, is of course liquor and also marijuana related products are limited to residential use and production. I'm not aware of anything that inhibits the sale of CBD products. I believe that it is allowed in this state. I think the gentleman is correct. Mm-hmm. If you want, what we could do is you could simply pass this conditionally upon a verification by my firm that this is in fact the case. I'm almost certain that it is, but I'd hate to make a mistake and raise expectations for this business where they could open. It's going to take and then we'd have to, meet again if there was something that we didn't do right. So I'm pretty sure that if we approve this, we are doing it right. But I could verify that. If there's a problem, we'll come back at the next town council meeting and address it. If there's not a problem, the license will issue according to the clerk. As long as you make a motion that sort of takes that into consideration, I think the situation will be fine.
I'm also interested in where the hours of operation, because it doesn't say anything about the hours of operation, the days of the week, any other any other information about what else is going to be sold at this herb and coffee bar? Mr. Sandoval?
Oh, yeah,
Mr.
so
Sandoval?
yeah, so we're planning to be open every day of the week from, we're a coffee shop, so we're doing cafe hours. So we're hoping to do like either 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. to about 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. And yeah, like, I would say more than 50% of our, like, I guess foot traffic would be for the coffee goer. We're completely plant-based cafe, so we're going to be specializing in, like, crafted cocktails. I mean, lattes and coffee.
What's a crafted cocktail, just out of curiosity?
Sorry, he meant to say espresso drinks. So we are 100% just an espresso coffee bar. That's what he meant to say. We do already have one. We already have an established coffee bar right in Cumberland. It is under Blackstone Herbs and Coffee Bar. This used to be a second location. CBD is legal in the state of Rhode Island. It's just going to be retailed at our place.
Mr. LeBlanc?
And I believe there's an age restriction as well, right? I think consumers have to be over the age of 21. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question of the town clerk. Ms. Amatrano, usually we get much more paperwork on a type of application such as this, and I only see one page here.
This is the only page that was required for them to fill out for a victualling license. This is normally our application for a victualling license.
Okay. And why wasn't it says a license will not be issued without a positive recommendation from the police and will not be issued without a positive recommendation from the Director of Planning and Zoning. And I'm just curious why this was not done before we received this application.
Well, it was submitted to them. We just haven't gotten it back yet. So we're waiting on them to get back to us. And once they get back to us, we won't issue the license without them giving a positive recommendation.
Okay. So Mr. Gorham, how would you phrase the amendment that you're recommending to the council on this application?
Sure, that the application is approved pending receipt of a positive review by the police department and the planning department, and verification by my office that the CBD products are legal in Rhode Island, subject only to the condition that member LeBlanc brought up, which is they have to be over 21 to buy it.
Okay.
That's a long motion, sorry. Do you want me to repeat it, or?
I think we need it for the town clerk to have. I've got pending receipt of a positive recommendation of the police, a positive recommendation from the Director of Planning and Zoning, and verification that the Office of Gorham Law.
Yeah, verification that it's a legal, that it can be sold in Rhode Island. I'm almost positive they're right.
Okay.
So
That the product can be
these
sold.
products can be sold in Rhode Island.
They sell it right down at the gas station by me,
Yes.
so.
I'll make that
I
motion.
wasn't questioning Rhode Island legality. I was.
I think we're
questioning
probably
just that
fine. I'm
shopping
excited about the
plaza.
vegan option. That sounds great. We don't have many vegan options in Coventry, so
No,
sounds
look
great.
at
Thank
your
you, Mr.
website. Looks
Sandoval.
nice.
I will make the motion that Mr. Gorham recommended.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
okay, any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of the motion as amended by Mr. Gorham, please raise your hand. Thank you. Would that be considered an amendment, Mr. Gorham, or just the motion?
Well, yeah, it was the motion, I believe.
Okay.
I understood that as the entire motion without amendment.
Okay, fine. So the vote was 4-0. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Sandoval.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Welcome. Item F1, may I have a motion to postpone the appointment of any member to the Planning Commission to a later date in May 2021?
Make a motion.
Thank you. May I
I'll
have a-
second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. The appointment is delayed until May 2021. The vote was 4-0. Okay, F2, Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation for sewer tie-in, reference pages 31 to 80. We'll take one resolution at a time. The first resolution is on page 31.
Do you want me to read the resolution?
Yes, please.
Whereas after examining the application's design plans and all other submitted documentation, the Coventry Sewer Subcommittee has recommended approval for the sewer tie-in application for 182, 188 Arnold Road and 3840 Dixie Road, Plat 22, lots 43.1 and 43.2. Whereas the applicant's designs, plans, and other documentation comply with all federal, state, Coventry rules, regulations, and ordinances, the town's engineers review comments and the following conditions of approval. Administrative subdivision plan to merge lots 43.1 and 43.2 is approved. The planning director and recorded at the town hall prior to the beginning any sewer construction. Pending completion of all conditions stipulated in the recommendation letter to the town council, letter by Mr. Hageman, town engineer consultant. Therefore, be resolved, the Coventry Town Council approves the recommendation sewer tie-in application for TNC Properties LLC for 182 and 188 Arnold Road and 3840 Dixie Road, assesses plat 22, lots 43.1 and 43.2, passed and adopted this 26th day of April 2021.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Ms.
I'll
Ludwig,
second it.
Mrs. Shockley, any discussion? Mr. LeBlanc,
My preference would be that we split up the Arnold Road connections and the Dixie Road connections, but my assumption is that we probably can't do that because of the resolution as written.
actually, yes, that's correct. The resolution for Oaks of East Shore subdivision is a separate resolution.
No, I'm not talking about Oaks. I'm talking about
Talking about this one here.
I'm talking about this one here, 182, 188 Arnold Road, be one vote, and 3840 Dixie Road be another vote. And
Generally
the reason
speaking,
why, I just want to give the reason why, the town council has not approved a sewer line down Dixie. The town council has approved a line down Arnold Road. So therefore, I see them as two separate streets, two separate projects. My concern is that we allow the Dixie Road tie-in, and then when an actual sewer line goes down the street of Dixie, if that ever does happen in the future, these two properties on Dixie will be tied in, and the remaining homeowners on Dixie will have to pay a higher assessment for the construction from Arnold Road by 38 Dixie. So I would just request that we vote on the Arnold Road and the Dixie Road properties separately.
Madam President, generally when something is divisible, there is an allowance to have a separate vote. This is clearly divisible. It pertains to different properties. So if Mr. LeBlanc would like a separate vote, it would not be out of the ordinary to do that.
Okay, fine. All right, may I have a motion for the resolution as it applies to, and I believe that, let me see. As it applies to 182, 188 Arnold Road only. May I have
I'll
a
make the motion.
Okay. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mrs. Shockley. Any discussion? All right. So the motion is for the resolution as it applies to 182, 188 Arnold Road. All in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. 4 yeas, no nays. The motion passes for 182, 188 Arnold Road. Now we'll take up the next issue, and that is number 3840 Dixie Road. Do I have a motion for the resolution for the tie-in for 3840 Dixie Road?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Ludwig,
I'll second it.
thank you. Discussion. Is there any
So-
discussion? Mrs. Shockley,
Just based on Mr. LeBlanc's comment. So the Dixie Road would never have to pay the same fees as the people on Arnold Road, or possibly the same fees as people on Dixie Road. They would get the sewer without those fees.
So just to clarify my comment, 38 and 40, they are paying a assessment currently,
Okay.
but it's going to go into the sewer fund. When a sewer line, if it ever in the future goes down Dixie, there's going to be construction costs from Arnold Road past 38 Dixie. Those construction costs should be paid for by these assessments that they're going to be paying for right now. I had sent an email asking for a confirmation that a credit would be given if Dixie Road ever goes down. I never received a response. So because I've never received a response, I just want to ensure that the remaining homeowners on Dixie don't have to pay for the construction costs from Arnold Road past 38 Dixie, because essentially they're already getting paid through this assessment right now, if it gets approved.
have they already paid construction costs?
They will be, right, if this gets approved, they will be paying some sewer assessments based off of the construction costs that were incurred on Arnold Road, not the construction costs based off of Dixie.
Okay. Are they going to get the benefit of a sewer tie-in?
If this gets approved, they will get a benefit of a sewer tie-in, yes.
Mr. Marchant,
From a project perspective, I don't know. I would say that if they were not part of the original Arnold Road calculation, their assessment would be based on the Arnold Road project, and that would be surplus funds for that project that weren't anticipated originally, because they aren't on Arnold Road, they're on Dixie. And so from a sewer infrastructure owner's perspective, we'd have a surplus on one that could be applied as a credit to the other on Dixie. The only question is whether their assessment on Dixie would be higher or lower than the one that is presently presupposed for Arnold. If it's higher on Arnold, then they'll have wished they were on Dixie at the time of that assessment. If it's lower, then the town will have a few dollars less than they would have if they were just on Dixie. But I think it, from my perspective as a utility manager, I see it as a wash, that the town is the owner of the sewer system, and the funds would apply either way. And it's just a question of how your sewer program is designed right now, that you're charging based on the assessments of the specific projects on the specific streets.
But when you say the town, if the assessment was going to be higher on Dixie and the town would be out some dollars, that's not true, because the sewer enterprise fund has to be funded by the houses that it goes by. So the town wouldn't be out dollars. It would be the homeowners on Dixie would actually be paying more of a sewer assessment. Just wanted to clarify.
Right, because they wouldn't be included, right, that one unit would change the denominator by one.
Completely agree, which was what happened on Hazard.
Well,
But if you were to amend the motion to dedicate that assessment to the future Dixie Road project,
I
then
would
that
be all
would come
for it
off
then.
the top.
Yes, I would be all for it.
Okay,
And
so,
that is something we could encumber and track financially easily enough.
so Mr. LeBlanc, do you want to offer an amendment?
The amendment would be that the assessment for 38 and 40 Dixie Road be applied as a credit should the sewer line ever go down Dixie in the future.
I'll second it.
That's is this an amendment, Mr. Gore? Would it be considered an amendment to the resolution?
Yes.
well, they're, sure, to be safe, let's call it an amendment.
Okay,
To be perfectly honest, I'm not sure, but we'll call it an amendment to be safe.
that's
So
why.
you can
I
vote on
turned
the
to you-
amendment and then the motion as amended.
Right, that's why I turned to you as the expert, Mr. Gore. All right,
The candid expert, I'm not really sure, but the safe route is,
okay. So we have, yes, we have been offered an amendment. Do I have a motion for the amendment?
I think it was made. I think that
By Mr. LeBlanc?
Member LeBlanc certainly made the amendment.
All right, do
And
I
there
have
was
a second?
Member Shockley seconded.
Can I?
She did shock, I don't think she seconded that amendment yet.
I did, but I
Okay.
just wanted to point out that Mr. Hurley, I don't know if there's a point at which he can speak, and I apologize for that. Mr. Hurley has his hand up. And I think this is his property. If I'm not mistaken, I'm at the end of one resolution and the beginning of the next, so
This is not a public hearing though.
I just wasn't sure. I wasn't positive if we were.
I don't think anything in the proposal would affect the assessment to be levied against the property. So if that's his concern, I think the only change was the town manager. I suggested as a compromise that assessment could be credited.
Okay,
If-
same price no
if-
matter what, but be credited elsewhere.
Yes.
Okay. So the amendment is that the assessment for 3840 Dixie be applied as credit should the sewer line go down Dixie Road. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any more discussion? All right,
A motion to amend.
the motion to amend, please raise your hand. If you're in favor of the motion to amend, 4-0. Okay, now we will have the motion to the resolution for 3840 Dixie Road, plat 22 lots 43-1 and 43-2 as amended. All in favor of the resolution? As amended? Thank you. 4-0. Okay, the resolution as amended is approved, 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we go on to the next resolution for the Oaks of East Shore subdivision, Tioga Avenue. Reference pages 51 to 80. The resolution is on page 51.
Would you like me to read it now?
Yes, please.
Whereas after examining the application's design plans and all other submitted documentation. The Coventry Sewer Subcommittee recommended approval for the sewer extension application for the Oak at East Shore subdivision, Tyoke Avenue, Assessors Plat 23 lots 47 and 47.1, and Assessors Plat 32 lot 152, such that the applicant shall sufficiently comply with all the technical requirements necessary per the town sewer ordinance and the town engineer's review comments. A separate residential sewer connection application for each new house must be submitted to the town sewer department for approval. Each new house lot will be subject to a residential better assessment in accordance with the town ordinance. Therefore, it be resolved, the Coventry Town Council approves the recommendation sewer extension application for Richard and Herman Olin and Carolyn Carlson for the Oaks at East Shore subdivision, Assessors Plat 23 lot 47 and 47.1, and Assessors Plat 32 lot 152, passed and adopted this 26th day of April.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
I'll make that
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. Do I have a second? You need a second on the resolution.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Can I?
Rick?
Thank you, President Dixon. So we did have some discussion on this piece of property in the sewer subcommittee, and we reviewed with Ms. Houle the kind of what to expect on the resident side to make sure that they understand that there will be an assessment that they're going to have to pay as new homeowners. So I'm just stating that out loud, that there is something that the homeowners are going to have to pay plus what the developer is paying. We went through and reviewed kind of the process there. So just, this is more for information. It's a piece of property that they've bought that they'll put the pipes in. And then after the houses are sold, Ms. Houle will be issuing the updated assessment. So this is kind of a new thing that I've seen on the sewer subcommittee in the last probably 2.5 years. So we just want to make sure that the persons buying the houses were aware of that and weren't, showing up at a town council meeting a few months afterwards saying, why do I have to pay this? So she walked us through that process. And just as a heads up, they would be getting the assessment later in the year when they go through the annual cycle. I think it was sometime between September and November. So we did talk about this particular property at length in the sewer subcommittee meeting. Thank you.
And I did watch that sewer subcommittee meeting and I heard her presentation. Is there any other discussion? Mr. LeBlanc?
The resolution says it must be submitted to the town sewer department. The last time I checked, our budget has a sewer department listed, but it's not funded. So I just don't know if the town sewer department is the correct thing to know. Just wanted to call that out.
Mr. Marchant, could you address that, please?
Yeah, the town sewer program is operated from the tax collector's office as far as billing and financials are concerned. So that's where we would receive it anyway.
Okay. Any other discussion?
So I think I would make the amendment to say tax collector rather than the town sewer department.
So the application for each new house must be submitted to the tax collector?
Yes.
Mr. Marchant, is that appropriate?
Yes, it is.
Okay, excellent. All right. An amendment has been made to change the town sewer department in the resolution to the tax collector. Do I have we have a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second. Any discussion? All right, we're
We don't have
gonna,
a discussion on the amendment, but I did have another question.
okay, we have to vote on amendment first, and then we'll get to your question immediately. All right. We're going to vote on the amendment to change town sewer department to tax collector. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you, 4-0. Okay, the amendment passes. Next question, Ms. Shockley.
I just wanted to confirm that before the person moves in, they know what their assessment will be. So even though they won't get it immediately, perhaps, before purchasing the home, they will know the amount.
Mr. Marchant?
Yes, the assessment is fixed based on the developer's costs, and the developer already paid the per lot fee. The homeowner will be paying a betterment fee based on the design of the house that they choose.
Okay. All right.
Okay, we ready for the vote? All right, all those in favor of the resolution as amended, please raise your hand. Thank you. 4 yeas, no nays. The motion passes. Next item, public comment. Are there any members of the public who would wish to speak this evening?
There is currently nobody requesting it.
Okay. Give them 1 more minute. All right, if there are no members of the public who wish to speak, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:55? This is an early evening for us.
Don't mean to laugh. It's
I'll make a motion.
I will second it.
Thank you. I don't expect there's any discussion on this. Ms. Ludd, the roll call. All in favor of adjourning, please raise your hand. Thank you. 4 yeas, no nays. All right, thank you so much. This meeting is adjourned, and we'll see you back here tomorrow evening.